Welcome to Deer Head Studios. This is 40 Below Zero, an international podcast about living with multiple sclerosis. I'm your co-host, Nick, and with me as always is my good friend, Terry. We're so glad all of our fellow MS warriors and supporters are here with us, so let's get into it. Hello again, everybody, and thank you again for joining us. My goodness, it's good to have you back. Terry, how are you?
Nick, I'm great, man. How you doing today?
I am doing good. I like what we're going to be talking about today.
And what are we talking about today?
Today, we are going to be discussing how, I know it's weird. I know we said it's unconventional, but how MS saved my life.
Oh, man, definitely. That's a great topic for me.
Well, it's something that's not often put together. Usually when you talk about getting the MS diagnosis, when you talk about a whole bunch of other things, the life shift, all that kind of stuff, it's usually with the connotation that it's a bad thing. And don't get me wrong, it's not a great thing, but it has the potential to do something like save your life.
And yes, definitely.
I think we should spend some time, if it applies to you. I know it certainly applies to me. I think we should spend some time talking about that.
Yeah, I'm a believer of that. I believe if I didn't, and I've heard stories from many people that MS saved their life, and it's different stories. It kind of slowed them down.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it slowed me down. It made me get healthier. It's funny because you wait till you get MS until you start changing your life. And I was that guy that I think I mentioned before. I was a car guy. I used to drive, and
Yep.
I was go, 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 go. And then when I got MS, it forced me to slow down. So,
Yeah. I mean, I was very young when I started my career. I
mhm.
was 21 when I got hired with a law enforcement agency. So I was, looking back, I'm just a kid. I don't even know how they even, I guess they saw potential in me. They saw something that I didn't, but I got hired and it
So
was like a rocket ship.
you were 21 and you became, can I say, a cop?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
that's an accurate
Police
description.
enforcement. Yeah. Okay. That's crazy. That's awesome.
Yep. I got hired with a department that has gone through so many changes that it doesn't even, first of all, it's not even named the same thing as when I got hired. And I don't think there's a whole lot of people still working there that worked there when I did. So, and even though I've only been out of it for a little less than a decade, it has been a lot of turnover in that department. And like I said, even the name is different. So yeah, I was, go
How
ahead.
many years were you a cop? Sorry. I'm so sorry. I hate that word. I don't know why I used it again.
It's
But how
quite all
many
right.
years were you in the in enforcement before you got
Uh,
MS?
I got hired September 5th, 2001, and I worked all up until I think my last day working a shift was October 3rd or 4th of 2013. And then I was officially retired on disability January 10th, 2014. So 01 to 14. So 13 years, give or a little less than 13 years. I worked for that department.
Wow.
So yeah, I was a
13
baby.
years. Yeah. And
Yep.
then it's just stopped. Yeah.
Yep. So,
So
um,
are you going to tell me that it saved your life because you were in a dangerous occupation and it took you out of that?
no, I'm going to say that it saved my life because the way that I was living my life was unsustainable.
Okay.
I mean, I used to joke, that when I was I'm in my mid 20s, and I used to tell people that at this pace that I'm headed for a heart attack by 36. I would say I fully expect to have my first heart attack by 36. This was back then.
Yeah.
Simply because it was, yeah, like as many hours in a day that you can work. Sometimes even more hours in a day, as meaning I didn't even go home. I would I would clock in, or I would, get on shift at 8 in the morning, and I wouldn't go home until like 10 the next day, which isn't really great for the general public.
Yeah.
Um, but luckily where I was working um didn't require that much physical activity all the time. I was kind of a hybrid department. It was kind of like a night watchman sort of, because I was responsible for buildings every
Mhm.
now and again that were empty. And so it was kind of, I don't want to say easier, but it was kind of easier. You could just sit and watch movies.
So
Um,
when you got MS, did it immediately stop you from working because of
yes.
the illness, or because you had symptoms that forced you to stop? You know what I mean? Did
Uh,
they just say, "Oh,
both.
you have MS, you need to stop"?
Uh, it was it was both. I could not find a doctor who would sign off on letting me go back to work, and my department didn't want me to come back unless I had a doctor who was able to say yes, he's okay now. So my symptoms were the very apparent thing that took me out of the game. Not that it was a game by any stretch, but
Hmm.
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But it was for sure unsustainable. Um, I was so as the sole provider for my family. I was in my mind as a young man. I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna work as much as I can, as hard as I can. I got to make as much money as I need to. And it's not that I lost sight of what really mattered. It was just all that kind of stuff got put to the side. I was like, all right, I'll get back to that later.
We are so
And
similar, man. Yeah,
oh yeah,
totally. Yeah, I know what you're saying. I mean, we live different lives, you know. You
right.
already knew. Did you already know, oh, I'm headed towards a heart attack, or are you just saying this now?
No, I was joking. I would joke with people back then.
Wow.
I would say, dude, if I keep going this way, I'm gonna have a heart attack.
Okay.
Well, I mean, you got to figure. I was, I really wasn't that healthy looking back on it. Like,
Yeah.
I was not eating right. Um, I was not. First of all, I was a smoker back then, so I was smoking. I
Mm.
don't know, 2 to 3 packs every 24 hours, if not more, just to keep going.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I
Not
was
shaming
drinking.
you and not shaming
No, no.
anyone else who smokes. That's up to you. But two, three, that's,
Yeah, and then so what else? I was drinking a gallon of coffee. It was constant coffee because
yeah.
first of all, you need it to keep going. You need the caffeine up to keep going. But then second of all, you're being fueled by you. It was hard to find a place that would charge you for the coffee as a cop. So you're getting free coffee. You're
Yeah.
trying, you would try to pay. I'd be like, no, 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 that's fine. You don't have to. And then there's places that would be like, no, it's company policy. I'm not allowed to charge you.
Oh my God, that's so great. I'm sorry, man, to hear that.
No, it's one of those things where they teach you
Yeah.
very early on. They say never accept a free cup of coffee because
Mhm.
the the understanding is that if something goes on while you're there getting that cup of coffee, you're going to take action, which you would anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody who did or does the job that wouldn't.
Yeah.
But
No, I
it's like,
understand, man.
oh, you came for a free coffee and you couldn't even help with my parking issue. It's like, no, I came because you're the only place that sells coffee that I like. So
I totally understand. I totally understand. Um, how do I put it? I understand because people in this world are crazy, man. You do someone a favor or they do you a favor, and that's it. They have something on you. And people start,
exactly right.
stressing you out. How come? How come this? And I totally get it.
Hmm. So there was the caffeine angle.
Yeah.
Then there was the let's see, the eating habits, horrible eating habits, way too
So
many carbs
I'm
and sugars.
just like you, man. I'm the same, but I was in denial. Not in denial, but I just didn't care. I didn't
Well, that's
care.
the thing.
Yeah.
So how so you were younger, right? So when you're younger, you typically don't care because
Hmm.
you're like, I feel good. This is all working.
Yeah.
So I can just keep going at this pace
Yeah.
and everything will be fine.
Yeah. Basically,
Hmm.
nothing slowed me down. There was no reason to slow me down. I was
Right.
just like you, money, money, money. I needed to make as much money as I can. It was never enough. So if I worked somewhere, if I knew I can fit in 3 hours over there, if I could do this, I could do a side job. I just kept going.
Now,
And
did you work many, did you work many part-time jobs or did you have one like career, quote unquote?
I had like a main source of income coming in from something I was really good at doing. So I would make sure that always stayed afloat. I would always bring in, money, and then I would always do side jobs and see what I can, I just maximize on my productivity, as much as I can. If this was better than that, then anyway, my mind was always moving to how can I do this better? How can I, I was always nonstop. And then when I was in a car, I was driving fast. I love driving. And I always believed I was a good driver. I was one of those dumb teenagers, dumb 20-year-olds that used to drive the shit out of my car. And thank God I never killed anyone. Thank God I never hurt anyone. But man, that's why I say I got MS, and it stopped me from driving. It stopped me from so much. And not only that, but when I was taking medication because I was on MS, is when I started reading about the medication, and I was taking that chemotherapy that I told you about.
Hmm.
And after I took this second treatment, I was reading all about it, and I realized I put poison in my body. And that's when I clicked, and I'm like, man, I need to change my life. And that's when I went 100 into nutrition, nutrition, exercise, whatever. The same as you, man. I would have gotten a heart attack if I didn't get MS. But it took me to get MS to realize that. Wow.
Well, yeah, because otherwise everything is good. You don't stop to evaluate things when everything's working and you're under the stress of you're under the stress of being you and doing all the and meeting all the demands of everyone around you. I mean, I I was a father at 23 and my second child was born at 25. So, there I am going full speed with young kids and living up to being the provider, living up to the image of the dad that I wanted to be or was trying to be. And, that's in my mind, that was the invincible.
Mm-hmm.
What's dad? Dad, when you're, I'm thinking, what kind of dad do I want to be? Well, I want to be the kind of dad that provides, and I want to be the kind that appears invincible and nothing is ever wrong and everything can be handled.
Yeah.
And for a for a while that worked.
Man, if I had kids, I wouldn't be able to do half the shit you did.
Well,
So,
you would be. You don't think you would, but you can. You find a way.
mhm.
I didn't think I would be able to do it. As a matter of fact, more often than not, I didn't think I was going to be able to do it in the moment when I was doing it. And that was even before all of this. So
when
yeah, the
whenever I see someone with a kid and has MS,
mhm.
I don't know. I just give them kudos because, and I always go back to this. I had a dog I loved so much, and I felt so guilty. The guilt that ran through me. And even though people said, "Oh, you take care of your dog," I'm like, "Yeah, but I don't give her a life of a normal dog." So I used to pay people to take her to parks, to take her on walks, even if I'm home and I could take her, I would still, just so she can socialize. Bro, it was my guilt. My guilt kicked in so hard. So I can't imagine if I had kids, dude, I don't know if I could. The guilt would have drove me mad, would have made me kill myself. I won't lie to you. Like the guilt, man. That's why I always give kudos to people who have kids. And
Well,
yeah,
the guilt of what? Having a disease that just you had nothing to do with its onset? Like the guilt of just having a disease? Is
but see, you
that what you're talking
understand
about?
that. Yeah, yeah, exactly. I would need to go to a counselor and they would be like, it's not your fault. You're doing the best you can and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? But
Sure.
I would just be beating myself up about it. Like, ah, my kids don't get what every other kid gets. And even though they do, man, you know what I
Well,
mean? It just,
that's a that's a very general that's a very general thought that I think many parents have about, giving giving your children better than you have, the best that you can get, and then, breaking yourself in half to try to get to that point. I mean,
mm,
that's a whole lot of it. So there you are. You are sleep deprived. You are malnourished because you're not eating healthy. You are stressed out. You're caffeinated up. You're, you're stressed out, running 26 hours a day. And then all of a sudden, like I said in the origin episode, which if you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to it. All of a sudden, my left eye, was fuzzy. And then here we are. Then MS is a thing.
yeah.
So, so how it saved my life? Well, it undid all of those things. It undid the sleep deprivation. It it didn't alleviate the stress because the stress shifted. I mean, it was overwhelming is not the term I would use, bro. Uh, Drowning is a more accurate term. Um, the thoughts is just drowning because you don't know where the money's coming from. You don't know where, if you'll be able to physically keep up. There's, but
Why
how
do
it,
why do I think of anxiety when you say this?
oh, 100%, 100%. A tidal waves
Mhm.
of anxiety, to the point where I'm still not over it, and I don't know if I'll ever be over the waves of anxiety. I mean, that it makes complete sense um when I received a general anxiety disorder diagnosis, or that I was like, yep, that fits. I was like, that makes sense when they described all the things. When a clinician is sitting there telling you, do you ever stress about this? Do you ever stress about that? Do you have a fear of this? And I'm like, yep, check, check.
And you got diagnosed with general anxiety disorder after MS?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, and major depression.
I mean, of course.
So
Come on.
major depression. Yeah, I mean they kind of go hand in hand.
I totally believe that even if someone is not sleeping all the time and they're out and about, and if they have MS, they possibly could have depression. It doesn't work like, oh, he's sleeping all the time. He's not eating. He's not depressed. That's not how it works.
Oh yeah, yeah. You don't have to. It's just like MS, just like all these chronic illnesses. It looks different for everybody. So this is my version of it. Doesn't involve me laying in bed with the covers pulled and the lights out. That wasn't my version. That's probably somebody's. Um, but it
You're right.
wasn't
And
mine.
it wasn't mine either. Mine was more spending money, finding things that excite me, getting my dopamine level up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was gonna say, were you chasing that adrenaline rush for the fast car driving?
I guess so, man. That's another session with my counselor. I guess so, man. I don't know. Like attention seeking was my thing too. Um, yeah,
Okay.
I don't,
How when you were doing cars, as you know, you say you were a
yeah,
car guy. Um, were you in a car club? Did you have friends that you met up with that were just car
dude,
based?
we're going into a topic that will take hours because I started a car enthusiast club at the age of 18 and it grew. We went to car shows here in Toronto. We went to like Import Fest, Dark Nights, whoever knows this stuff. So yeah, I had a big life with cars. And
What was your
oh
car?
man, I mean, of course, I started with the Rice Rocket, which is a Civic, but we did a lot of things. It wasn't just a Civic, right? We got motor swaps, we
Right,
did
right.
body work, paint jobs, like blah blah blah. But then I went into you guys call it a Celica. Here in Canada, we say Celica. And then
Uh-huh.
from that, I went to another car. Then I went to a S2000 Honda Roadster. And then from that, I'm like, what else can I do? So I got a bike. And I'm so glad I did all that because now I have MS.
What kind of
The
bike did you
bike, I
have?
had a Gixxer, Suzuki Gixxer 750.
Nice. I know, I'm familiar. I started out with a what's it called? It's a Honda State
Okay,
Line. It was a cruiser. It was like,
nice,
but then after I got diagnosed for a little while, I had a Harley trike.
nice. Dude, I
Yeah.
had no idea.
Um, yeah, my balance was gone. So it was time to get a trike.
Oh, trike. I get what you're saying. Yeah, okay, okay, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I used to joke and say it was the fastest mobility scooter that Harley ever made.
Gas powered.
180 mile an hour hover round.
What kind of helmet did you have with that? Anyway, that's
Uh,
did you
I had a
okay,
half
okay, I
helmet,
figured.
but it had a comm system,
So you had
so I could talk
yeah,
to the
that's
passenger.
cool. Did you ever
Yeah,
have a passenger?
yeah,
Okay,
a lot. Yeah, it was
cool,
always my wife was always on the back
cool.
of it.
Um,
Yeah, it was that was a and see, it's simply remembering those things. I can hear the smile. You know what I mean? There's some good
yeah.
times.
So you know what, man? We were both riding bikes at one point. So maybe MS did save our
Mhm.
lives, if you know what I mean.
See, there's a school of thought that especially if you are a person of faith or religion, if you're someone who thinks that way, that the thing that is taken from you saves you from some other tragedy. I've heard that from people. Have people have said that to me. They were like, "Well, it was probably specifically in my case." People have said to me, "Well, you know, it's part of the plan because maybe you were going to get shot on the job or fall off your bike at high speed or, you know, and it's people trying to
Yeah.
make sense of a senseless disease."
It's like if you're late leaving your home to go somewhere, then someone can always be like, well, I mean, it's good because you probably would have gone into an accident at this perfect spot. And then, you know what I mean? It's just, yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. And that's kind of the way we started this whole episode when we were talking about how it saved my life. So maybe it did. I can't say it didn't. You know what I mean? Luckily there's no proof to the other side of the argument.
Yeah.
Um, but it certainly did get my eating in order. It did get my sleep in order. Um, didn't really help with the stress. I think it shifted the stress and it internalized a lot of the stress from work stress to health stress.
I understand. I understand how you said it shifted because, before MS, I had all sorts of emotions, whatever. But after MS, all these new emotions started coming out. And I'm like, I swear this is not me. And, crying, laughing. And obviously it's from depression or whatever you want to call it. But I totally understand, man.
Yeah.
I went through different emotions after. So,
Yeah. And that's, I don't know. It's wild. I think as far as emotional health goes, it definitely, well, first of all, speaking with somebody, a professional, for sure opened up mental health because back even back then, which wasn't even that long ago, we're only going back, 10 years, it was unheard of for a person, at least in law enforcement community that I worked in, the little department that I worked in, it was unheard of to talk to somebody.
Okay.
It was not something that was done. And I hope that it's changed. Like I haven't been around it. I hope that it has changed.
Was it because you look weak if you talk to someone and everybody was tough, you know?
Part
Okay.
of it, but the other part of it is it could be taken as a liability. See, that's the thing about law enforcement. Everything you are and everything you do is held up to a legal standard. Even things that you do in your personal life are held to this standard. So if the department didn't send you, if you went on your own, if you're like, hey, I need to talk to somebody, let me go
Yeah.
talk to somebody, even that could be brought to light at some point potentially. Now I know there's HIPAA stuff and they can't exactly say what, but just the mere fact of going,
Yeah.
but yes, it you would look weak. Now you can talk to your bartender, you can talk to your priest, no problem at all day, every day. But you go talk to somebody back then, they'd be like, "Oh man, Nick's seeing a
Yeah.
shrink.
I'm sorry.
I don't know if we can trust that
That's
guy."
garbage. Yeah,
You know what
that's
I mean?
garbage. Another,
I
if
agree,
you
it's
got
garbage.
MS, even if you don't have any symptoms, it seems like, oh, oh no, but he has it. He's damaged already, and they'd probably have taken you off the force right away.
Well, that's the department that I worked for. Um, I had a meeting with human resources, and they said, "Okay, where are we at with things? Your short-term disability is coming to an end. We need to know." And I said, "No, the doctors are all saying that this thing, the damage that the two flare-ups that I've had are not going to reverse themselves anytime soon, if ever, just because of where it's located and whatever."
Did you feel like you had to prove it to them? Like when you told them,
I had 100%. I had to prove it to him. I had to find a doctor who was willing to
no, no, I know. But when you
sign off.
told your department, hey, no, I cannot come back to work. My doctor says this and that. Did you feel like you had to, like, I swear to God, I'm sick. I swear I'm having issues. Did you feel like you had to prove it, or you know what I mean? Because
Uh,
it's
kind of.
invisible, really.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
kind of. I did. And maybe not to the bosses, but definitely to a lot of the guys that I worked
Hmm.
with. Um, because I was 33
Yeah.
and I was 250 pounds of go to the gym 4 days a week.
Damn, you were a big boy.
You know, oh yeah.
Yeah.
I looked like I was trying to be, like a
Don't get me
tank.
wrong. I
I was
look at you
trying
now, I'm
anyway.
like, yeah, this guy is fit. This guy, he goes to the gym. But man, when you say 250, you are a different person.
Yep. Yep. At my heaviest, I was 250, and at my lightest, um, during some of my darker days
Yeah.
early on, I was down to 160. So 90 pounds, give or
I,
take.
I want to know, like, I mean, I don't mean to get into it right away, but how dark was your darkest days?
We can get into that. We'll get into that
Oh,
in a little bit. Let's focus on the positives right now, and then we'll segue
sounds
into
good.
that. Um,
All right.
so so yeah, I kind of felt for myself that I had to be like, no, but seriously, I really am sick. You know what I mean? Um, the loss of vision thing. So being as that I am right eye dominant, when I lost vision in my right eye initially, totally scary.
For sure.
I was like, I was like, I'm gonna have to learn how to do everything with my left eye only. Then that was scary.
You know, it's funny. We talked about this other time where you told me there would be sometimes you'd close both your eyes and you try to do something to
Hmm.
challenge yourself. Because what if you go blind and you just want to know if you could maneuver, you
Yeah.
know? So this is going to sound really weird and take it as it is. But when I was in the shower, I was thinking about you and I was like, what if I can try this? So I closed my eyes. I put the shampoo bottles where I knew they were going to be. And I cheated. I'm like, okay, this is the hair, this is the body, this is, you know what I mean? And then I closed my eyes and I tried to do
Hmm.
everything from top to bottom. Dude, it's still stressful because you're like trying to put the bottle down and it drops on the floor. Like,
Hmm.
man, I wouldn't be.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
if there is no cheating, like if you couldn't cheat, you would make it work.
I get it.
You know what I mean? You would
I get
adapt
it.
because look at how you have adapted. So you just got to get comfortable with it. So yeah, let's see, save my life. Let me focus on let me focus on family. I went from, like I said, I went from working around the clock to, even though I wasn't ready physically to even take care of myself at that point, um it focused on family. I got to be stay-at-home dad, not by choice, but I got to watch the kids grow up, which is the absolute best thing. Any outstanding moments, they were all because I was forced to be at home.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, it definitely saved my life in those respects. Did your eating habits change, sleeping habits change after diagnosis?
Totally, man. Yeah, of course. Everything, and it took years. Like I went through different phases. When I first got diagnosed, I didn't care. I was, eating everything, in the car. I would drive to McDonald's 2 in the morning. I needed to eat right before I slept. I was just the most unhealthiest guy. And then when I started doing all these, DMTs and I started reading on the chemo, and then I changed my life. But I went through phases where I thought I was healthy, but I was like, yeah, I'm not eating bread. But that's not all. You gotta, I stopped. Anyway, I'm not gonna get into it because I went through phases. So if I tell you I stopped eating meat at one point, or I stopped cream, dairy,
Hmm.
sugar, you know,
Well, you were trying it out to see what
yeah,
worked, right?
yeah. But right now I'm at and I hate bragging. I'm not a type of guy that likes to brag and but I am. I'm at the peak of my life right now. And it's funny because I have MS. And the last 40
Hmm.
years, I was never at the peak of my life, like never as fit as I am now. But the fact that I
Sure.
have MS and I can't even walk and I'm really fit. And it's like, damn, I could have done this before, So, but I'm good, man. I'm good.
Yeah.
Like I work out 3 days a week. My spirits are up. I'm always smiling. I have dark days, man. I do. I have really dark days, but
Still?
yeah, I mean, everyone does. No frustration. That's to me, that's dark.
Sure.
Frustration. I go
Okay.
through frustration. I don't mean, you know, I just get irritated when I get tired. How about that? That's
Mm.
the main thing.
Well, fatigue and burnout are a real thing. So,
Yeah.
it just hits us harder and faster than it used
Yeah,
to.
that's for sure.
Yeah, I certainly feel healthier, mainly because I see more doctors than I ever have. Um, you know, way back then, way back, like it was that long ago. Back then, I had no time for doctors. I had no time for dentists. The only time I went to the doctor was when I needed my annual physical. And it was never for any other reason. It was like I'm just going to the doctor once a year, and that's it. Going to the dentist twice a year, and they're going to tell me that I need to floss more. Every doctor is going to tell me I need to quit
Yeah, yeah,
smoking.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, it was like I was like, all right, I don't need any of this. I'll get to it later.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, now I think I have. Let's see, I have my primary doc. I guess what do you call him, GP?
Yeah, yeah, general practitioner. But yo, even some of these doctors are, fat and unhealthy, and they're living their life
Well, they're people
until
too,
they
man.
have something like what we have, and then they're like, "Shit, what am I doing? I gotta fix my life. I'm a doctor, man." Sorry. Yeah.
So I have my primary doc, I have my neurologist, I have two
Two.
neurologists, and then I have yeah, you gotta get a
Oh yeah.
second
Okay.
opinion,
Okay.
bro.
Makes sense.
I don't see the second one. I just go to him whenever something new's about
Yeah.
to happen. And I say, hey, what do you think about this? And he goes, well, sounds right. I'm like, okay, just to check, you know.
Yeah.
Cardiologist. So what are we up to? Three.
Urologist at all?
Yep,
Mhm.
urologist, four. Um, so at least four docs.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
And then of course, well, that's and then of course there is the psychologists. You know, they are
Yeah.
also doctors.
Yeah.
Um, so four or five doctors now that I see regularly. So at least once a month I'm seeing somebody. Definitely more tuned in to my health than I ever have been.
I mean, we should be like this regardless of illness or not. You know what I mean? We should be checking.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, if it took MS for you to do that, at least you see some positives
Hmm.
out of this, you know?
Well, you
Yeah.
have to because let me tell you, the you have to focus on the positive. It's like when you buy a car. You know how when you buy a car, you go, "Oh man, this is such a unique car. Nobody has this particular make or model," and then you buy it, and you're like, every corner has this exact car
Yes.
on it in this exact color.
Yes.
You realize how not original you are.
Yes. Totally. Totally. Um,
But that's
no,
go
no.
ahead.
It's totally, you know,
And I say that because you got to focus on the positive. Because if you focus on the negative, it's easy to get pulled down by that. My my dark day, because you asked a little earlier about dark
yeah.
days, and my dark days were very dark in hindsight. Um, a couple of them were could have been life changing if thought processes hadn't gone a different if they've gone a different way. Um,
That's scary, man. Even hearing you talk about
well,
this.
I don't. Yeah, I don't. Well, I can talk about it
Yeah.
now because I've talked about
Okay.
it. And once you tell a couple of people, even in a clinical setting, it gets a little easier. I don't talk about it to be like bragging, like, hey, look what I, look at my thought process and how it changed. Does that make
Totally,
any
man. I don't
sense?
take it like you're bragging about
Okay.
that, but I know what you're saying. I know. I know.
Not at all. So I can actually pinpoint my darkest day if you're ready for that one. I know exactly when it was. I don't remember the date, but I remember exactly
Are you
what the
ready to talk
scenario
about
was.
it? Because I'm ready to listen, man.
Uh,
Let's
yeah, I
do it.
think so. It was the one and only time that I had a panic attack so bad that it stopped me. So I had I had applied for and been granted Social Security disability. And I was kind of like, okay, well, the positive is that I will never really have to worry about money coming in, regardless of my physical abilities. Now, I know that it's not going to be a lot of money, but I know that there'll be at
Right.
least something.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, so that's
Mhm.
good. But then what happened was that I was hit with the realization that I was done working. Like it really hit me that the reason why I received it was because the federal government acknowledged that I was no longer physically capable of doing the thing that I had set my life to doing.
It's like they were paying you to stay out of the way.
Yes. And it was the realization hit me that it was over. Like that was
Right.
over. And I received a check in the mail from them, which it can take a little while to get a court date, to get approved and all these legal things. And in my case, I was denied the first time I had applied, which makes sense because nobody's going to give you money. The government's not going to give you money for the rest of your life at 32 years old unless you prove it to them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're not just going to be like, okay, 32-year-old, here you go. They're going to be like, no, we want to see the
It
evidence.
makes sense, man. People take advantage, but yeah, I get it.
Right. Right. So I appealed and I hired a lawyer and we go to the trial and that gets, we do that. And then some time goes by. And then I get a call from the lawyer, and the lawyer says, you've been approved. You should be getting your award, what they call an
Okay.
award letter soon. And it'll have your back check in it. I was like, okay,
Did
great.
they pay the lawyer fees afterwards, or was that still stuck on you?
No, it
Oh,
gets taken out.
nice.
The way that it
Okay.
worked was, yeah. And it's capped in these particular cases, no matter how much work the law firm puts in on your behalf, they max out at a certain
Okay.
amount of money. But in my case, I was like, I know they're going to max out because they did put a lot of work in for me. They had to get a lot of records. I think I entered 132 or 35 pieces of evidence for my case. So that was 135 pieces of paper from doctors to prove my case
I don't even know what to say, man. How long did it take you to prove your case? Yeah.
in the court. Half an
Oh,
hour.
oh, so it wasn't like ongoing for 2 years, you know?
Oh no, it took 3 years just to
Dude,
get
what
the
a waste of
hearing
time. Why would they do that? Why would they waste their money on doing that? But anyway,
be- because, like I said, because you got to prove it to them at 33. They're not
but you
just going
have
to hand it to you.
MRIs. You have, anyway.
That's what it was. It was each slice of the MRI was one piece
Okay.
of
Okay.
evidence. And when you add it all up, it becomes over 100 pieces of
Yeah.
information. So I'm like, okay. So I hang up with the lawyer, and then a couple days go by, and I see that the check is in the mailbox, and I open it up, and it's the biggest check I had ever received at one time.
Nice.
And I believe it was for, I want to say 34 or $35,000
American.
American.
Nice.
Yes. So what's that
don't
in
don't start
Canadian
putting me on the
dollars?
spot. I don't know, 52.
52 geese or
I
Canadian dollars?
think
How do
you've
you get
upset a
paid up
lot of
there?
people, bro. I'm joking.
I know. I just upset half of our
I'm
listenership.
joking, buddy.
I'm just trying to make light
I,
of this so it
I
doesn't
hear
get
you, man.
too overwhelming for the
Over
listener.
Canada. I think it's around fifty
Because
thousand dollars. I think.
okay, okay,
Yeah, yeah,
makes sense. So I'm like, okay, here's the check. I'm looking at the check and I'm like,
yeah.
wow, it's real because I'm holding a check that says my working life up to this point is
Oh,
worth $35,000, and that's
yeah.
it. Then the rest is going to be handed to you from the government. Which, don't get me wrong, 35 is a lot. It's it's not nothing.
No,
That's
I
for sure.
understand you, man. I understand what you're saying.
So I am looking at that check and I'm thinking about things and I'm thinking about life and I'm putting it all together and it's finally becoming real and it's spiraling and spiraling and spiraling and growing and growing and growing and like you're never going to do this, you're never going to do that, and this means the federal government knows you're going to die and this is going to happen and this, and it's like going on and on and on just to where like I couldn't breathe, and like I went out back into where my fire pit is, and I'm like breathe like I said I
Yeah.
couldn't breathe, and the world was getting close, like everything was getting like real small and going real dark, like physically getting dark, like it was getting hard to
Okay.
see even though it was the middle of the day. And luckily I was pulled back from that Um, and the rest of my day, and I and it wasn't because of me. I didn't pull myself out of that. It was actually my wife did that. She found me by the down. We have the back of our property backs up to a creek and a little riverlet, little stream back
Dude,
there. And
panic attacks
hmm.
are no joke, man.
Oh, dude, I had no context when someone would say to me before that, they would say, I think I'm having a panic attack. And I'd be like, all right, well, just breathe through it. I don't know what you want me to tell you. But after that day,
Drink some water, you'll be fine.
like, right, exactly. I had nothing, I couldn't know where to
Yeah.
reference it. But after that day, I'm literally leaning up against a tree in my backyard, hyperventilating. And if it wasn't
Yeah.
for her, you know,
Dude. Yeah.
so I have this panic
Hmm.
attack and it lasts for a while. I mean, it was the first, like I said, it was the one and only time I had like a true panic attack. It was for sure, I want to say close to an hour all told.
Okay.
And, but even after I was brought back from it, I still had this lingering like cloud, which I guess is when the depression arrived because I'd never felt the heaviness before that. And I have never not felt it since then. Like I always feel it since that day.
That day when you got the panic attack, were you all sweaty? You know what I mean?
Oh
Okay.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's not a joke, man. I know.
Dude, it is not. It is really not. And I'm gonna have to put a some kind of trigger warning on the front of this episode so that people understand what they're getting into listening to this.
Yeah,
Because I don't want to set anybody off. Um,
I agree. I have, sorry, I
so
have seen someone in middle of a panic
yeah.
attack, and yeah, no, no, I know. I take it serious. And on a quick note, anxiety. I used to laugh about anxiety because I was someone
Hmm.
in my life had anxiety, and I used to always say, "Yeah, it's okay. It'll be okay. Just breathe." But now I deal with
Right.
anxiety, and now I want to approach that person and just say, "I'm so sorry." Anxiety is
Yeah,
debilitating.
exactly. Yep. Anxiety and
Yeah.
depression. So the next day I
Mhm.
wake up and I woke up and I was like still in this low place. And I didn't mention it to anybody because I was like, I'll get through this. It'll be fine. I'll just drink some water and it'll be fine,
Yeah.
or whatever. I'll just breathe.
Yeah.
But the, so I'm still way down, so to speak. And I'm like, well, this is it. I woke up today and I'm not any different than yesterday. I'm not going to be any different tomorrow. And I'm only going to go downhill from here. This is the best that I'm going to be forever.
And when was this thought process after you got diagnosed?
This is so I was diagnosed in 13. This is 2000 and I want to say 2015,
All
2016.
right.
So 2 or 3 years after diagnosis because you had to wait
Mm-hmm.
for the hearing and all that.
Yeah.
Um now I'm about 26, 27 at the time. And when I woke up that day, I remember thinking I'm very clearly, this is the best I'm going to be physically and mentally from now on. If I live to be 100, this today is going to be my best day. And I went, how long do I really want to hang out and watch myself go down? How long do I really want to hang out and put my family through this?
That's dark, bro.
Yep.
That is dark. Yeah.
So I'm I'm thinking all these things while sitting on my porch, drinking a cup of coffee, smoking a cigarette because I was still a smoker back then. And I'm thinking this is it. This day is going to be the day, the last one that I see. So yeah, this is today. This is going to be the day.
You know,
And I had the
yeah.
means. So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking all these things and I have the means. So I'm like, okay, this is going to be it. I'm like, all right, when am I going to do it? When am I going to do it? When am I going to do it? Well, it's breakfast. I haven't had breakfast yet. So, all right, well, empty stomach will be fine. Nobody's up. All right, let me smoke another cigarette and then I'll go out back and then that'll
Dude,
be it.
before you even continue, whatever you went through, guaranteed so many have gone through this, which is really sad, man.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, please. That's crazy,
So,
man.
so I'm like, yep. And then I'm like, okay, well, which one should I
Oh
use?
my God.
I had two at the time. And I was like, well, that one will work. Well, they'll both work, but one will be for sure effective because I was really, honestly, I was really scared of
Bro,
surviving.
I just want to give you
That was
like a fucking, that's crazy, man. Like, go ahead. Sorry. Fuck.
so I was like, I don't want to survive. I want to make sure that it's done and it's done right. And I'm like, uh, okay, so I've narrowed down where I'm going to do it, which one I'm going to use. And then it was the weirdest thing, bro. It was the weirdest thing. a a praying mantis landed on my coffee cup.
Okay.
And you're familiar with prey what a praying mantis
Yes.
is, right?
Yes, I am familiar, of course.
Okay. Making sure people know what insects
Yeah.
are. A prey mantis is not a
Yes.
small
No.
insect. And it landed on my
Okay.
coffee cup, which is 3 feet from my face, not even. And I looked at it for a while and it looked at me and then it just flew off. And I was like, what the hell was that? I'm like, that can't be the thing that stops me from doing what I'm about to do. There's no way that's going to be the thing because I'm committed. I'm
Okay.
doing this. Well, right after that, as soon as it flies off, my wife comes out and gives me a hug from behind, like I'm sitting down at a table looking out. And she gives me a hug and she kisses me on the cheek. And she says to me, "Morning, hun. What do you want to do today? Seeing as how your schedule is clear now." And I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Well, you can do anything. You don't have to, you're not going to work. The kids are at school. My schedule is clear. So what do you want to do?" And I was like, I never thought of that before. I was like, I've never thought about it that way before. I was like, my whole life just changed.
It's like you never realized.
And I didn't even
Yeah.
realize it. I got stuck yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And this is
Yes.
today. And she goes, "So what do you want to do?" I said, "I want to go to well, I'm not saying the name of the place, but it's a gun shop up
Okay.
the street." I said, "I want to go up the road." She goes, "For what? Do you want to spend time on the range to blow off some steam?" I said, "No, I got a bunch of handguns I want to sell today."
Wow.
And she says, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yeah, oh yeah, I'm sure. We're going right now. I'm getting dressed. I'm going to jump in the shower. I'm getting dressed and we're going."
When did you tell your wife what you were really thinking of?
It was years. I never mentioned it to anybody.
Yeah.
So that was my darkest day.
I have no words for that, man. That is crazy. Like I had never been that dark. First of all, there's I don't even know what to say, man. I've lost it. I've went through frustrations. You know, my darkest days is me swearing at God. I'm one of those guys that I
Hmm.
believe, I don't believe, I don't know. I'm spiritual. I do believe there must be some architect, great architect of this world. But anyway, in my darkest moments, I start challenging who I think is God. And I start challenging him because I want to be taken out. I won't do it to myself. Why? Maybe I don't have
Hmm.
the courage. There's no easy way. I don't have a gun and I don't want to die, but I want to die. It's a weird feeling. I don't want to die, but I just want him to do it for me and get it over with. So I will challenge him and I will say stuff I cannot say anywhere. I will say stuff to him and I'm like, really? You're going to take that? And yeah, and then
Yeah.
afterwards, I'm like, man, this is really dark shit, man. But to to go to your level, bro, I just want to give you a hug. I don't know what to tell you. That's fucking dark.
Well, I'm not, not, like I said, I don't say it as a matter of pride, as in like, hey, look what I didn't
Not
do.
at
You know
all,
what I mean?
man.
Like, I don't, I say it so that anybody who is thinking anything remotely close to that, please understand that that is a moment and that moment passes. And I'm, and I know everybody who knows me is, but I'm really glad that that moment passed and I was still there. I was in the next moment, you
Dude,
know.
I'm glad too,
Never,
No, but seriously, if anybody else is having this moment and you're listening to this, please email us. Please, 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 because we all take this shit serious.
yeah, it is not, this is, this podcast is entertaining. It's funny. Um, but it's to know that you're not alone and what you're going through is not you're not the first, like I say a lot, you're not the first, last, or only. You're not the first one, you're not going to be the last one, and you're by sure not the only one. 8 billion people on the planet, right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. You're not the only one. There is so many more. If you're going through something, at least a million are going through it as well. Whatever you're going through in this world.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you're listening in the States, there is you can dial 988. 988 will get you to the suicide and crisis lifeline 24 hours a day. I highly recommend you call them if you have to. I mean, I would encourage it if I could. Um, I had a teacher in high school. He made us, back then it was a whole 1-800 number, and he made us memorize it before we could graduate his class senior year, because he said, you might not need it today, but you might need it at some point. So memorize this number and never forget it. But luckily they've whittled it down to just 988, which is the suicide and crisis lifeline. So if you need it, call it, because I'll even put it on the description of
Man,
this episode, because it's so important.
yeah, man. Thank you. Thank you. That definitely. And I can also give the Canadian number, guys. I wish it was a short number, but I know the long number 1-833-456-4566. All right. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll give it to you to put on description as well, please. Yeah.
So that's the highs and lows, man. That's the way it goes. You either, um, how did it save my life? Well, it let me focus on me.
Mhm.
What were my darkest days? That was absolutely the darkest of the darkest. And I'm glad that I only had one
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. I'm glad you share
So,
that, man, because I think you grow from that when you share it.
and like I said, the only way I can, or the only reason I can talk about it is because I said it to somebody in a clinical setting. Once you say it a couple of times, you realize that it was that was, like I said, the moment, and the moment, it's not you anymore, but it's who you were in that
Yeah.
moment. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, man.
No, man.
Decompress
No,
after
no,
this
not
one.
even. Look, all my good about getting MS is all the people I've met and
Oh
being
yeah.
part of this exclusive club.
Oh yeah. Everyone wants in this one.
Dude, you got MS, you're part of the club. You're part of the family. There's so many support groups and people get closer to each other knowing that they go through the same battles. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's shit, but man, you just get so much more out of it. I don't know what I'm saying right now. You try to stay positive, but
Yeah.
all I know is I've met so many people and
It's okay, man. But yeah, it helps. That's why last episode, the community, we talked about community, talked about all these people, all these things. That's why I like having these guest speakers on. I know we're gonna do more of that coming up. We got a whole bunch of people lined up. We're gonna let everybody know that we just keep talking about it. Just keep telling people. Everybody gets to tell their story.
yeah, like we said, we're going to normalize all these different stories that we all go through.
That's the plan anyway, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, brother.
All right, man.
I'm about spent after that. I'm gonna go take a nap.
Man, I appreciate you sharing that. Really, I do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm just super grateful that we were given the opportunity for this platform so that we can do it.
Yeah, definitely. For sure.
So,
All right, man.
all right, man.
Yeah,
Talk soon.
for sure, man. Take care. Huh?